What's going on YouTube? BKN here bringing another video. This one going to be my week 6 battle for the SSBL Minors. Apologies for being kind of behind on the SSBL. I know we're currently in week 9, I believe, in like real time, but I've just been way behind on my draft league stuff here. Thankfully things are ending. OLT is ending, or has ended at this point. That finals video will go up soon. VPL has ended. That finals video will also go up soon. And the League War tournament, at least for the MWPA, has ended. We finished tied for 3rd, losing in the semifinals to MLG. Good luck to them in the finals. I believe they're playing against LD in the finals of the League War tournament. But yeah, still plenty of other stuff going on. DPL is just starting up. SSBL is obviously still ongoing. MWPA just started up. And I am playing in the ABC again, but like I mentioned, I won't be uploading those videos to my channel, just because it's a little bit too much for me right now in terms of my Pokemon workload, if you can call it that. But anyways, looking at week 6 matchup here for the SSBL Minors, we're taking on KmjNext, coach of the Brooklyn Magnets. KMJ is of course the leader of the MWPA server and the MWPA League. Really great guy, love playing in the MWPA. Pretty cool that we get a chance to play him here. We're actually in different divisions of the MWPA itself. He's in Earth this season and I'm in Venus. But we're both in SSBL Minors here, and getting a chance to play him is always fun. But let's get right into the matchup here. So my opponent has available the Mega Gallade, Aegislash, Weavile, Roserade, Manaphy, Slurpuff, Sandslash, regular form, Regirock, Audino, Noctowl, Emolga, and Latias. His Z users are Manaphy, Slurpuff, and Noctowl. He's got like 6 really good Mons in terms of like Aegislash, Gallade, Weavile, Roserade, Manaphy, and Latias, and then like 5 pretty bad Mons. Like Slurpuff is okay, Regirock is okay, regular Sandslash. I've tried with regular Sandslash, I have, but I can't stand regular Sandslash anymore. It's just like, his team's a little bit top heavy, I think, because all those points spent on those really good Pokemon, and he just kind of had to find some filler for the rest of his tiers. Yeah, I mean, there's not a whole lot else to say on that. A couple big threats. The Mega Gallade is always very difficult to deal with. I do have Uxie to help with it to some extent, but it does outspeed most of my team and can hit things really hard. It potentially has Shadow Sneak for my Blacephalon, which is problematic. Weavile is an absolute monster to switch into. Mega Mawile has a pretty good matchup versus it. It really can't do too much to Mega Mawile, especially if I have my Intimidate intact. But even Rotom Wash doesn't really want to take hits from that thing. If he knocks off an item from my level MUK, that's really annoying. Just very difficult for me to find switch-ins for in general, especially because I didn't bring Hariyama this week. And then lastly, Manaphy, really big offensive threat. Z-Rain Dance is definitely very scary versus me, or even just like a Tail Glow 3 attacks. I definitely anticipate him to have Energy Ball to hit my Rotom Wash, obviously a Water type move as well, and then probably Ice Beam, so I'm thinking he'd lean more towards just Tail Glow 3 attacks. But that's still very difficult for me to deal with because not a lot of Pokemon on my team are going to do enough damage to threaten Manaphy to stop it from getting up that Tail Glow, and it can really start to break through my team that way. Obviously there's some Sucker Punch Mon games, so I decided to go that route with Mega Mawile. But definitely if he just kind of Tail Glows in my face, he's probably claiming a Mon, regardless of whether he's Z-Move or Leftovers or whatever. Definitely a very scary threat for me to deal with in this matchup, and he doesn't even necessarily need to run both Ice Beam and Energy Ball, because if he is like Z-Rain Dance, +3 rain boosted Surf is going to do a ton to like Rotom Wash and Serperior anyway, so it's definitely a potential late game win con for him. Very, very difficult Pokemon to deal with in this matchup. Alright, that being said, let's get into my team builder here. First thing I had to put on the team was Rotom Wash. Eats Tide Pods here. Again, Manaphy's a huge threat. Rotom Wash definitely is going to help a lot with that. Running Window Berry Rotom Wash with Defog, Will-O-Wisp, Hydro Pump, and Volt Switch. Pretty standard set from my Rotom Wash here. Running a good bit of physical defense actually, so I can take 2 banded knockoffs from a Weavile if I'm not mistaken. Maybe Life Orb, I can't remember. But I can definitely take 2 somethings from the Weavile with my physical defense investment, and the rest is just dumped into special defense to help me take on the Manaphy a little bit better. Will-O-Wisp is obviously really nice if I'm already in on things like Weavile, things like the Gallade. I can just throw off Will-O-Wisp versus his team. Obviously I have to be concerned about the Roserade. I'm thinking he could run Natural Cure Roserade if he wants to just eat up the Will-O-Wisp, but even still it's not super affected by it in the first place. Especially if he's running like Black Sludge or something to offset the damage. So Volt Switch is generally my better play to try and catch the Roserade coming in and get out into something like my MUK or my Mega Mawile and start pressuring him that way. So Rotom Wash, just kind of typical nice defensive pivot in this matchup. Pretty decent check to the Manaphy here. I can live a +3 Energy Ball with my Rindo Berry intact, and he basically kind of has to decide whether he's going to Tail Glow or whether he's going to set up the Z Rain Dance when he's trying to play around my Rotom Wash, essentially. So Volt Switch is pretty nice for that thing as well, and like I mentioned, catching that Rose Raid on the switch with Volt Switch is going to be super important for me to keep up offensive momentum in this game. Next up here is Giant Brain the Uxie, running Colbur Berry Uxie with Stealth Rock, U-Turn, Foul Play, and Psyshock. Running max HP, max physical defense. This is basically my quote-unquote check to Mega Gallade. It's a huge problem to deal with Mega Gallade in general. It gets access to Ghost type coverage, Dark type coverage. Like, your Psychic type's not going to do that great against it. The Colbur Berry does allow me to live a +2 knockoff from the Gallade, and I can do a ton of damage back with Foul Play. I believe it's actually a roll to Oko no bulk Gallade, which I figure he'd probably be running max speed to speed tie with my Lycanroc Dusk, because Gallade's not the bulkiest mon, so if I go like +2 and I Z his Gallade, it's going to blow up from my Lycanroc Dusk. So I am expecting him to run at least enough speed for Blacephalon, if not for the Lycanroc as well, which means he shouldn't have a whole lot of HP investment. And like I mentioned, that +2 Foul Play on a +2 Gallade is going to do a ton of damage in return, which is really nice for me. Stealth Rocks are just really nice to chip down his team, put things in range of my Muck, in range of my Mawile, things like that over the course of the match. And U-Turn is just really nice, again, to keep up offensive momentum in this game. He's got some okay switch-ins to this thing, like if he brings the Aiga Slash, he could potentially be switching that in on my Uxie. Foul Play does hit that as well, so if he's like an SD variant, he can't just set up in my face, which is nice. And the Colbur Berry U-Turn allows me to break a potential Sash on the Weavile, or at least get off enough chip damage to help put it in range of Shadow Ball or +1 Shadow Ball from my Blacephalon later in the game. Locking into Shadow Ball can be particularly useful in this matchup if he didn't bring the Audino, as you can see he did. But getting a little bit of chip damage off on the Weavile is always nice, and getting a slow U-Turn initiative is super good for my Mega Mawile in that respect as well. Next up here is Friend of Dave, the Alolan Muck, running Figgy Berry Alolan Muck with Gluttony, Poison Jab, Knockoff, Curse, and Recycle. Running, again, kind of a weird mixed EVs type of Alolan Muck. I'm Adamant Nature, but I'm mostly invested in Spadef. I can't remember what all these calcs are for. It's been like 3-4 weeks at this point. Really kind of mixed EV Alolan Muck here. Kind of a decent check to his Latios if he's running like a Calm Mind variant. Even if he's running Earthquake, because Latios isn't as strong as Latios on the physically offensive side, I don't have to worry too much about that with my Alolan Muck. And because it's not one of his Z users, I know Knockoff should do some pretty good damage to that. Even if he's running Colbur Berry, Knockoff's still doing a pretty good chunk, and I can just recycle up my Berry on it. I'm running Figgy Berry this week as opposed to Iapapa Berry, because even though I love Iapapa Berry's name, like I will always run Iapapa Berry if I can. Figgy Berry is technically better in this matchup if he happens to run like Trick, Choice Scarf, Latias. At least if he eats the Figgy Berry, he'll get confused by it. So that's the only reason for running Figgy over Iapapa ever, really, is just because there's something that might trick you and take your item. Otherwise, Iapapa Berry is just way more fun to say. So yeah, definitely a potential late game win con here in Alolan Muck. I can see it definitely putting in the work on his team. If I can get up to 1 or 2 curses, I can help take on the Sandslash, take on the Gallade, take on the Weavile. Weavile knocking off my Berry would be somewhat problematic, but if he's doing so in order for me to knock out the Weavile in return, I'll take that trade. Getting rid of Weavile is just definitely a huge threat to my team, especially if he's running like a random Choice Scarf Weavile to help counter Scarf my Blacephalon. Getting rid of Weavile is just always nice in general. Next up here is Two-Face the Mega Mawile. Running Intimidate as my pre-mega ability, of course. Sword Stance, Knockoff, Sucker Punch, and Play Rough. Adamant Nature, Max Attack. I believe I'm speed creeping no speed investment Sandslash or something like that. It might not even have been Sandslash with the speed investment, but basically pretty standard SD Mega Mawile set with the double dark. Sucker Punch is nice to help pick off weakened things on his team. Like, not that Weavile can really do a whole lot back to me, but I believe +2 Sucker Punch does like 75% or something to Weavile. It's something insane. So after Stealth Rock's damage, he'll be in range of a +2 Sucker Punch. Gallade will be in range of a +2 Sucker Punch, if I'm not mistaken. Basically, Sucker Punch has a chance to just clean his team. Do have to watch out for potential substitutes. Obviously, things like the Latias could be running substitute versus me. I did play against Latios earlier in the season, and it was running substitute. So I definitely have to watch out for that, but Sucker Punch is a nice way to check that thing as well. And the Double Dark is really nice to help deal with the Aiga Slash. Having Sword Stance allows me to not have to worry about I have to click an attack versus the Aiga Slash, so I can always SD in its face. and then, like, if I'm predicting a King Shield, that is, and then go for knockoff on the following turn, do some big damage to something on his team. I believe even in defensive mode, Iga Slash is not going to live a +2 knockoff unless he's Colbert Berry, so that's something really neat to note as well. Mawile just exerts a ton of offensive pressure on his team. He really doesn't have a whole lot of good switch-ins. Pretty much everything on his team gets 2-hit KO'd by Play Rough, or the combination of like Play Rough and Knockoff. So definitely a very scary mod for him to deal with. If I can get up an SD, that's potentially game, depending on when it happens and all that stuff. So Mawile just really nice in this matchup. Very difficult for him to deal with. Sucker Punch is also a potentially good way for me to deal with the Manaphy, again, assuming he's not running a substitute variant. I don't think he really has enough move slots to run substitute on Manaphy, but obviously there's some kind of mind games with him clicking Tail Glow and Rain Dance and things like that. But I could potentially pick that thing off if it's chipped a little bit, as long as I get one Sucker Punch guess right. Next up here is Brain Blast, the Cephalon. Rain Choice Scarf Cephalon with Fire Blast, Shadow Ball, Flamethrower, and Trick. Trick is there specifically for the Audino if I happen to deem it necessary to trick that thing. Audino is kind of bait for my MUK and my Mawile anyways. They can pretty much come in hard on that thing, and what's it going to do back? But Cephalon here is just a really nice offensive check to the Gallade and the Weavile. I don't anticipate him to be running Scarf Weavile, although that would be a really nice tech to help deal with my Scarf Cephalon. But obviously the Choice Scarf allowing me to outspeed the Gallade, KO with Shadow Ball, really big for me. Locking in a Fire Blast is a really good option in this game. It doesn't have great fire resist, bar like Regirock, if you happen to bring that. And that's another potential target for me to trick if I feel like, again, that might make sense for me to do. In general, I'd rather hold on to my Choice Scarf as long as the Weavile and or the Gallade are still alive. But otherwise, late game, maybe Trick is a good option for me to cripple the Audino or cripple a potential Regirock switch in. So yeah, that's Cephalon for this week. Pretty standard stuff. Pretty standard OU kind of Choice Scarf Cephalon set here. Lastly here, we brought back Grace the Starter Eevee. Once again, running Assault Vest with Anticipation. Running it Batty Bad, Glitzy Glow, Sappy Seed, and Sizzly Slide. Wonderful names for moves. Batty Bad is a Dark-type move that sets up Reflect. Glitzy Glow is a Psychic-type move that sets up Light Screen. Sappy Seed is a Grass-type move that is an attack and also auto-hits Leech Seed upon its target, assuming it's not a Grass-type. And Sizzly Slide is a Fire-type move that auto-burns upon contact as well. I will be referring to them mostly as those types of names as opposed to what they're actually called. So like I'll say I'll go for Reflect, I'll go for Light Screen, things like that. I haven't really found a good substitute for Burn move, but I'll probably just call that Sizzly Slide during the game. But yeah, kind of nice Spadef bulky pivot with my Eevee here. It's actually able to take on things like his Latias fairly well. I'm not running the Haze variant of this this set. It does get an Ice-type move that auto-hazes, but I felt like getting the Glitzy Glow up, is Light Screen up, is generally pretty good. I can get the Leech Seed off as well, kind of beat that thing 1v1-ish, and the Dark-type move is also going to be helpful for potentially breaking substitutes on the Latias and the like. So yeah, getting the screen up is generally good enough. Like if I get the screen up and then go out into my little MUK, he really shouldn't be able to touch me with his Latias anyways. Having the Sizzly Slide there to burn things like the Weavile and Gallade and Iga Slash is enough to like have them not come in hard on my Eevee, which is really nice because I definitely want to limit the switch-ins that especially the Gallade has in this matchup. So that's kind of a nice deterrent there, and obviously the Leech Seed ability to kind of get some health back to the rest of my team. Weaken down some of his fat, things like Sand Slash, things like Regirock really do not appreciate this Pokemon at all. I can burn them into Leech Seed them and set up my Reflect, and they really can't touch me outside of like Toxic. So Starter Eevee, I thought, again, had a pretty good matchup here. It's really good against teams with a lot of slow offense and a lot of kind of bulky mons that don't have a whole lot of offensive presence because you can just kind of sit in their face. Obviously the Weavile and the Gallade are somewhat problematic for this Pokemon to deal with, but again, they can't come in on my Eevee because they have to fear getting burned by my Sizzly Slide here. So that's the team for this week. Definitely like what I came up with this week. Even though I have been kind of busy lately, I feel like sometimes my 30-minute prep kind of stuff will give me some good teams, and some people say like, oh, 30 minutes is really all you should put into prep. But I like to put in a lot more time than that. I just really haven't had the time to do so lately. But no Johns, let's get into this game and see what we got on tap here. As you can see, KMJ did bring the Mega Gallade, Manaphy, Weavile, Roserade, Sandslash, and Audino. So he had a couple of things that he could do with the end of his picks there. He could have run Iga Slash over something like Sandslash. Audino makes sense to help deal with my Blacephalon. I believe Fire Blast is not a 2-hit KO. It might 2-hit KO after Rocks, though, depending on his Spadef investment. But Audino is just partly annoying for my Blacephalon to breakthrough, but it's going to force him to go for Wishes over the course of the match, which is a great opportunity for me to get in things like my Mawile, things like my MUK, my Eevee. Can come in on Audino all day and not really care. So, man, excuse me. Looking at lead matchup here, my best overall lead is probably Uxie. I could potentially set Stealth Rocks on him, which is going to be really nice for chipping down his Weavile in particular. And then also I can just kind of U-turn out on anything else. And I can also threaten the Mega Gallade right off the bat. Like, my team doesn't match up super well against Mega Gallade, obviously. So I definitely felt like Uxie was the best overall lead. It matches up well versus Roserade, which you might want to try counter lead my Rotom Wash with. And I could potentially get up Stealth Rocks early in the game here. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to lead with my Uxie here, as unfortunately he decides to lead off the rip with his Weavile. Not necessarily the lead that I wanted to see, but because I am Colbur Berry, I don't have to worry too much about this Weavile. I can just go right for U-turn here. If he's Focus Sash, that's fine. I'll break the Focus Sash. But whatever he wants to do is fine by me. Colbur Berry knockoff really shouldn't do too much to me. As you can see, it only does about 33%. I can still take an unboosted hit from the Mega Gallade, so that's great at this range, and being able to get some good chip damage off on the Weavile means that after Stealth Rock, it is in range of a Shadow Ball from my Blacephalon, which is definitely something nice to note. I should also, I'm just going to pause it for 1 second here. We started this game originally, and it turned out that KmJ was running Bright Powder Weavile, and I missed my U-turn, and I was like, hold up a second, Bright Powder is definitely not legal in this league, which it's not. So we just had to restart, and he ran no item on his Weavile, because we thought that was kind of like the fairest compromise here. Definitely not going to try and claim like a forfeit win or anything, just because he's running Bright Powder. It's just really funny that the U-turn missed, and I was like, excuse me? You can't do that. So we just restarted and decided to make the same plays on turn 1 here. So anyways, take the Colbur Berry knockoff and get some nice chip off on the Weavile. And this is a pretty free Mega Mawile here to just come in and click Play Rough. Everything on his team getting 2-hit KO'd by the combination of Play Rough plus Dark type move, like Sucker Punch, for example. So Play Rough's going to do some good damage to something coming in. Turns out it is the Sand Slash. I probably should have calculated this at the time, but I believe that's max physical defense Sand Slash, which is still getting 2-hit KO'd by this Play Rough. Unfortunately, because I didn't calculate at the time, I wouldn't have noticed that my Mawile actually outspeeds his Sand Slash, so I was fearing a potential Earthquake here, obviously, so I went out to my Rotom Wash. Worst case scenario, I figured he set Stealth Rocks, but he's got some good prep here and brings the Super Fang to get some good chip damage off on my Rotom on the switch, so yeah, Sand Slash there, able to get about 50% off on my Rotom Wash here, and like he's got a Roserade right there, so I'm just going to go for Volt Switch this turn, as he unfortunately decides to stay in with his Sand Slash here, just to get up Stealth Rocks. Don't know if he predicted the Volt Switch there, or if he was just sacking off the Sand Slash because he realized it's not really going to take any kind of hit from Mawile. But good play there on his end, getting Stealth Rocks up as I go for the Volt Switch, and that's going to kind of force me to defog. My team doesn't super appreciate those Stealth Rocks being up, but that's going to be unfortunately a free opportunity for him to get in his Roserade. So at least I get the defog off, get those Stealth Rocks off the field, and I'm obviously going to switch out my Rotom Wash here. I don't want to burn my Rindo Berry just yet, because that Manaphy is a bit of a threat, and Eevee can pretty much come in on this Roserade all day. I don't care if he goes for Giga Drain or anything like that, as he actually reveals what I'm guessing is HP Ground to hit my Mawile and my MUK. But Eevee able to come in here and tank that hit. I'm just going to go right for the Sizzly Slide, denies him from potentially going Weavile or Gallade, predicting me to go for the Light Screen. So getting the Sizzly Slide off there, burning this Roserade. I'm guessing he's Technician because he's running Hidden Power, as he actually was Technician, and getting Sizzly Slide damage off on the Roserade is really nice to start chipping it down over the course of the game, cancel out its Black Sludge recovery and things like that. Anyways, this is just a free opportunity for me to get up my Light Screen with my Eevee here. It's super effective on the Roserade anyways, should do decent damage, and he's really, again, not going to be able to do much back to me with the Light Screen up with my Eevee intact. Is no big deal. So I'm going to make a bit of a misplay here and go for the Leech Seed on the Audino here, which is going to allow him to Toxic my Eevee here. Definitely should have just gone hard out into Mega Mawile there. The problem was I didn't want to take like more spikes damage on anything than I had to, but unfortunately he's going to get the Toxic off there with his Audino onto my Eevee. I'm like, well, since I'm already Toxic, might as well double down and just get up my Reflect as well. Reflect is going to help me switch into things like the Mega Gallade and the Weavile anyways. Getting the dual screens up is good in general, but getting the Leech Seed off here is really nice. I just basically don't want him passing this Wish for free into something like his Sand Slash. So what I'm actually going to do here, I believe, is double Leech Seed on this turn, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. I basically just didn't want him getting free wish passes to his team. If he went Rose Ray, that's fine. Like, again, it's not a threat to me. I can reset my light screen on it after the screen runs out. But he just goes for Heal Bell there and heals off the burn on his Rose Raid. No big deal. Now that I've got this Leech Seed up and this Audino really can't touch my Mega Mawile, I can go hard out into that thing. If he stays in, great. I'm going to get the Leech Seed recovery back anyways. And if he switches out, I'm still behind Light Screen, or behind Reflect at the very least, with my Mega Mawile. So he does go for the Wish here as my Mawile comes in, gets a little bit of recovery from the Sappy Seed to recover back up to full. And I'm just going to throw off a Play Rough here, basically deny the Sand Slash switch in, deny him from Manaphy, anything like that. I'm going to go for Play Rough here and do some big damage to the Sand Slash, but unfortunately it looks like I got a very high roll in the last round, and able to get a very low roll on this one, so it kind of evens out there. But the Sand Slash is going to live there. But with the Reflect intact, I can stay in here and just go for another Play Rough. Even if he decides to set Stealth Rock, or if he decides to set Stealth Rocks up, I can KO this Sand Slash. And if he doesn't, as he goes for Earthquake here, I'm still going to get some big damage off with another Play Rough here. He's got to fear a potential Sucker Punch here, and I don't want him getting his Stealth Rocks up for free. So what I'm actually going to elect to do is go right out into my Rotom Wash again. I do want to preserve as much health as possible on this Mawile, but at least now the Sand Slash is broken. Obviously it does outspeed my Mawile anyways, actually. I was talking about it being very defensive earlier, but it does outspeed my Mawile there. And unfortunately is going to be able to get off a little bit of chip damage, but able to get in my Rotom Wash here, predicting another Earthquake to knock out my Mawile. That's going to allow me to defog this Spike, which is mildly annoying to all the grounded mons on my team. I basically just don't want him having hazards up in this game in general, because I am planning to do a good bit of pivoting with things like my MUK and my EV here, so less hazards he's got up, the better. Here I'm going to elect to actually Volt Switch. I'm fine burning my Rindo Berry if he wants to attack me, but I think he just reset his Spike here, as he does. And even if he did go for the Giga Drain there, at least I would have gotten some slow initiative there off the Volt Switch to get back into something like my EV or my MUK potentially, and start to pressure him that way. Here I believe I do go out to the Uxie instead, just because I do pressure him with a potential Psyshock here, and I can finally get up my Stealth Rocks to start punishing some of the pivots that he's making, especially if he goes to sack off his Sand Slash here. Stealth Rock would be a really nice play, but he actually goes hard Gallade on my Uxie here, which is fine. Like, Uxie's my kind of dedicated counter to the Gallade anyways. Without my Cobra Berry, and without any item, I do live a knockoff now from the Mega Gallade at neutral, so I'm just going to fire off a Foul Play and see what he wants to do. Getting chip damage on the Gallade to put it in range of my Blacephalon is really nice, potentially in range of Sucker Punch from my Mawile as well. But going for Foul Play here, I'm going to do a huge chunk of damage to this Gallade as he is SD. Like I mentioned, that was a roll to Oko No Bulk Gallade. Don't know what he was running, but it turns out he's not actually running knockoff. He's running Shadow Sneak to catch my Blacephalon instead. Which means Uxie is going to be able to knock out this Gallade with a U-turn as I go right back out into my Rotom Wash. Again, I don't super love the Spike being up, but I do kind of like Stealth Rocks being up, so I don't feel like defogging here. But going Rotom Wash is kind of my best overall play. It denies setup for the Manaphy. It means that the Weavile should not want to come in on me to click knockoff and get burned. So it kind of forces out the Rose Raid to some extent, and I can either make that Volt Switch play again, or I think he's going to go for a Grass type move as I do. I'm just going to sack off my Uxie here, that's fine by me. What this is going to allow me to do is get in my Blacephalon after he knocks me out and just claim one, basically, with Flamethrower. Even if he decides to go into Audino, that's still essentially claiming one, because I could go back out into my Mawile if I want to. Could also go back out into my Eevee and start setting screens and stuff back up. Fine by me. I just went for the Psyshock this turn. In retrospect, I probably should have U-turned. If I was trying to sack it off, if he stayed in, I'd die anyways. But if he went Weavile, as he does, he's going to catch me with the knockoff. It's unfortunate that I didn't click the U-turn there. That would have been a really big play to knock out the Weavile, but it's not like my 2% Uxie was really doing a whole lot else in this game, especially because I don't think he's really going to have a chance to remove those Stealth Rocks from his side of the field. So, going to get Blacephalon in here anyways, just to click Flamethrower. Weavile is guaranteed in range, and really his only switch in is Audino anyways, and I kind of want to see how well this thing's going to take it. I don't want to risk it and click Fire Blast here, just because if he decides to sack off his Weavile and I miss, I'd be really sad. But fortunately for me, I do get a Flamethrower burn on this Audino, which actually means I will 2-hit KO it from the range it's at. But he's definitely going to go for a Toxic here, because that'll allow him to beat my Blacephalon 1v1 later in the game if he switches out and gets some Regenerator. So I definitely don't want to allow him to get that Toxic off, as he actually just goes for Wish instead. He really can't touch my Mawile anyways, and Mawile is kind of the best overall play to try and deny him this Wish Pass. So I'm just going to click Play Rough here. Pretty much something should die to Play Rough at this point. Manaphy comes in. It's actually a roll to Oko after Rocks on this Manaphy. We're going to go for the Play Rough, and unfortunately we miss the Manaphy, so That kind of sucks because now he's obviously at full health Manaphy instead of at, like, I don't know, 50% after catching the wish or potentially dead. But, you know, it's Month. What can you do? Missed the play rough there. And I'm just going to stay in and click play rough again to deny him free setup with the Manaphy at the very least, as he just rips off a Hydro Vortex there. No big deal that he went for the Hydro Vortex and knocked out my Mawile. Obviously, Mawile was really nice to pressure his Audino and pick up KOs with play rough, but I just really could not allow that Manaphy to get up a free Tail Glow there and then potentially a free Z Rain Dance on the following turn. So I had to stay in with my Mawile there. He clearly called that and just went straight for the knockout. And obviously Mawile was a huge threat to his team anyways, but this is going to allow me to go out into my Rotom Wash, eat that Energy Ball up with my Rindo Berry, do some big damage to this Manaphy in return, and get right back out into my starter Eevee. What this is going to allow me to do is just reset my Light Screen for free. I can also go for Sappy Seed to start Leech Seeding back some health off this Manaphy. And basically make sure that it can't beat down my team from the range it's at. I believe I go for the Light Screen first here, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I do go for the Light Screen first here. Just, again, that Manaphy's a huge threat to my team, especially if he's carrying Tail Glow. And I can just go for Leech Seed on the following turn, get some health back on this Audino. And even though my Mawile's gone, Audino's still pretty much free bait for my MUK to come in. We've seen Toxic, we've seen Wish, we've seen Heal Bell. Last move is probably Protect anyways. So this Audino appears to not have any attacking type moves. And I'm basically just going to deny him from passing this Wish to anything on his team. Manaphy wants to come in. I believe that actually might die to the Sappy Seed plus Rocks. And even if it doesn't, at the very least, I'd have the Leech Seed off on the Manaphy there. Roserade, I don't really care about coming out. Again, it really can't touch my my Eevee at all, but I'm just going to go for the Leech Seed here once again. Do some pretty decent damage to the Manaphy. Actually, does not knock out the Manaphy at all. Eevee weak. But at least I get the Leech Seed off on the Manaphy, and with my Light Screen up, this thing really can't touch my MUK at all. Like, MUK's very specially defensive naturally anyways. With the Light Screen on top of it, it's going to be super nice. So I can just pretty freely get out into my MUK here, as he actually doubles out into his Audino, potentially predicting me to go into Rotom Wash or something, not really sure. Or potentially just looking to, like, Regenerator stall my Eevee to death with Toxic. But I'm able to get my MUK in there, and I can probably go for a Curse here if I want to. Like, Sandslash is a potential sack here, but I won't die to +1. At +1, I won't die to Earthquake, and he'll activate my Berry, so Curse was pretty free on this turn, and now I'm just going to click Knock Off on the following turn. I probably should have clicked Poison Jab first. I'm a little ahead here. I probably should have clicked Poison Jab here first, just because it would knock out the Audino and deny him from going into his Manaphy. But I didn't think he was going to risk the Manaphy this turn. I thought he'd just sack off his Sandslash or something. So good play there, getting his Manaphy in to catch this Wish as I go for Knockoff, which is obviously not going to KO because his item is a Z move. But definitely want to save my MUK here. I can take some hits from this Manaphy, go for Poison Jab. But if I Poison Jab as he Tail Glows, that Surf is going to do a lot of damage to me. Oh. Never mind, I did stay in here. I guess I kind of had to. I'll go for Poison Jab here. This next turn is when I'm going to switch out the MUK. Go for Poison Jab here as he goes for Tail Glow. Do some big damage to the Manaphy and just sack off my Rotom Wash. Really don't need it anymore. It's not taking hits from anything at this point in the game, and it's outsped by Manaphy, Weavile, and Roserade. So, Weavile's... Rotom Wash is gone. And, yeah, the Manaphy's in here at +3. Not really a huge problem because I do have the Choice Scarf plus F1 to check this thing. Not that it needs to be Choice Scarf to outspeed a non-+1 variant of Manaphy, but he actually is in Flamethrower range here, so instead of clicking Shadow Ball, I'm just going to click Flamethrower this turn. Again, not wanting to miss in case he decided to stay in and sack, but at the very least getting my Beast Boost here as he decides to sack off his Roserade. No Roserade is still nice for my Alolan MUK because, like I said earlier, I think he is carrying HP Ground. So definitely glad to see the Roserade gone at the very least. And that's another thing that could potentially be kind of spike stacking me here in general. So definitely going to save my Blacephalon here. I really don't want to get Toxic by this Audino. And basically if I can get MUK in on this Audino, I'm going to win the game at this point. Like, Manaphy's no threat anymore because it's at 20%. At +1, Weavile's not really that much of a threat to me outside of the fact it can knock off my Berry. And at +1, like I mentioned, I do live the Earthquake from the Sandslash and activate the Berry. So I'm just going to go for Leech Seed here on my Eevee and basically just set up as much as possible for my MUK to win, meaning get up my screens, get off a bunch of Leech Seed chip on his team, that kind of thing. I just kind of had to deny him from passing the Swish back into the Manaphy again, which means I'm going to click the Leech Seed again this turn. Manaphy is really the only threat left to my team if I allow it to survive. So he does finally show the Protect here as I go for another Leech Seed this turn, and that's great for me because it means I can finally set up my Light Screen again. and that should allow my MUK to clean this game. With light screen up, Manaphy's not going to be doing crap to me, and as I go +1s in my defenses and stuff, Weavile and Sandslash really aren't going to be doing a whole lot to me either. So, like I mentioned, perfectly content to let my Eevee go down here just to get up this light screen as I do, and he might elect to go for the Wish here as he does, but that's really not a huge deal. My MUK with light screen up is now a much better check to the Manaphy than it was before. I really don't mind too much about him potentially passing the Wish into it at this point. So I am going to live my toxic damage again, just trying to deny a potential Wish path by going for the Leech Seed on this turn, but he's just going to go for Protect and get the KO on my Eevee here with the toxic damage. But like I mentioned, things have been set up for the MUK. I've got light screen active. This is a free curse because Audino clearly can't touch me. It's shown its whole set at this point. So MUK's going to come in here, get a free curse up, and should be able to clean the game from there with my dual stab. And we're going to bring MUK in here to do just that exactly. So MUK's going to come out here, go for a nice curse. If he decides to stay in to Wish, that's great. I'm getting more Leech Seed recovery. I'm getting free curses. Fine by me. But what he's actually going to do here is go hard out into his Manaphy, which is fine. As I get my +1, I don't want to max out the Manaphy just yet because I do want to go +2, which would allow me to live Icicle Crash plus Earthquake from the Weavile and the Sandslash. So what I'm actually going to do here is just curse again. With the light screen up, I kind of figured he'd sack off his Manaphy anyways, and with the light screen up, that Surf's doing absolutely nothing. Even if he went for Tail Glow that turn and went for Surf on the following turn, he only would have done, what, 48%, which would have put me in barrier range. So here I'm just going to say +2 is enough. I'm going to knock out this Manaphy, not allow him to Tail Glow in my face as he's trying to do here, and KO that Mon. And MUK is very primed to sweep at this point. +2/+2 means Sandslash is basically just going to put me in barrier range. If he goes Weavile first to knock me off, that could be mildly annoying, but I believe I still live knockoff into Earthquake at this point. So he kind of has to go into Sandslash here to pop my berry and then hope for some flinches or crits with his Weavile. He's going to go for Earthquake here, do some pretty big damage to my MUK, but again, with the berry intact, I'm not too concerned about it. Able to go right for the, I believe, Poison Jab this turn and KO the Sandslash. And now he's kind of got to go Weavile as well to try and flinch me down because, like I've said, that Audino has no way to touch my little MUK. If he gets a crit flinch into crit, I think he KOs my MUK. But again, the likelihood of that happening is much lower than the likelihood of him just straight up missing an Icicle Crash. So I'm just going to go for Poison Jab here. There's no reason to recycle or anything like that. If I break through, I win the game. And we KO the Weavile, and we do win the game here. So I'm just going to speed it up for these last couple turns here because, as we've seen, this Audino cannot touch my MUK, and I basically just have to attack it a whole bunch of times. But Audino comes out here. Again, it's shown its whole set. Can't touch my MUK. Go for knockoff. Remove its leftovers as he goes for Wish, and probably just by habit clicks Protect on the following turn. But there's really nothing that this Audino can do to me. So MUK is going to clean up here, coming through with a nice 4 kills at the end of the game. Super good work from the old MUK in this game. I've run Curse MUK quite a bit, actually, in the SSBL, which is funny because I didn't really run it very much in the MWPA when I had it. I did run Recycle a good number of times on MUK, but I was usually like Recycle 3 attacks. Curse MUK is super powerful. Like, its natural Spadef stat and bulk make it really able to take on hits from that side, and then once you start to get up 1 or 2 curses, the physical side's really not a problem anymore either, especially as you're getting 50% health back every time you fall below half. Really have enjoyed using Curse MUK in this league to this point, and I was finally able to put in a good bit of work here in this game. GG to KMJ, good luck going forward. I believe he's still definitely in contention for playoffs at this point. I think he's 4-4 as of the real-time standings right now, so definitely very much in the thick of it for playoffs still. Maybe we'll get the rematch in playoffs, that'd be pretty hype. But thank you guys very much for watching to this point if you did. Hope to see you guys in another video. I'll see you later. Bye.